The discovereth vast emptiness of space stretched out before the team like an endless sea of stars. The explorers on the astral voyager had been drifting for weeks, searching for anything of importance, anything that could explain the strange, unexplained signal they had received. But all they had found were dead planets and barren asteroids. That was until now, Captain. You should see this. Ensign Carter's voice broke through the stillness of the bridge. His hands flew over the controls, pointing to a dark spot on the ship's scanner. At first, it looked like just another rock or debris floating in the deep abyss. But as the ship drew closer, Carter's heart skipped a beat. It wasn't a rock, it wasn't debris. It was a ship. The Astral Voyager was one of the most advanced ships in humanity's fleet, capable of deep space exploration, and yet, even it was stunned by the sight in front of them. The ship was enormous, larger than anything they had encountered before. Its sleek, metallic exterior seemed to absorb the light, casting a shadow on everything around it. The ship appeared ancient, its design far beyond anything the crew had ever seen. But what made the ship even more mysterious was the fact that it had no known markings. It was as though it had come from nowhere. Prepare for docking, Captain, Alex Saunders said, his voice steady but filled with a strange excitement. The crew worked quickly, securing the ship to the airlock of the Astral Voyager. They all knew this was the moment they had been waiting for, the discovery of something lost in time. But no one could predict what awaited them inside. The moment the airlock opened, the crew was hit with a heavy silence. It was as if the very air on the ship had been frozen in time. Ensign Carter led the way, his hand gripping the hilt of his sidearm, a gesture that reflected the nervous tension running through the crew. The rest of the team followed closely behind, each one taking slow, measured steps as they ventured deeper into the strange, forgotten vessel. The interior was dimly lit, the lights flickering in places as though the ship hadn't been used in centuries. The walls were covered in strange symbols, unlike anything the explorers had ever seen. The air smelled faintly of dust and something else, something metallic, something old. As they moved through the narrow corridors, they could hear their footsteps echoing off the walls, a reminder that they were the first humans to set foot on this ship in what seemed like forever. This place feels off, Lieutenant Emily Davis whispered, her voice barely above a breath. She was the ship's expert on alien technology, and even she could feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on them. Keep it together, Lieutenant, Captain Saunders said, trying to sound reassuring, though he, too, could feel a knot tightening in his stomach. They passed through several rooms, each one more unsettling than the last. Some rooms appeared to have been abandoned in a hurry, with what looked like personal belongings scattered across the floor. Other rooms were filled with strange, advanced technology that the team couldn't make sense of. The walls seemed to hum with energy, like the ship itself was alive, waiting to reveal its secrets. As they entered a large central chamber, the air grew colder and the humming noise grew louder. In the center of the room stood a large, circular console covered in glowing, alien runes. The symbols pulsated softly, almost like they were breathing. Captain, I think we've found the heart of the ship, Carter said, his voice a mixture of awe and concern. Captain Saunders nodded. Let's see what it's hiding. The team moved toward the console, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Lieutenant Davis knelt down to examine the symbols, running her fingers over the glowing runes. These markings, they don't match any known language. It's like they're trying to communicate something, but we're not sure what. Activate the console, Captain Saunders ordered, his voice sharp and commanding. Carter stepped forward, cautiously pressing a series of buttons on the console. The moment he did, the ship seemed to come alive. The lights flickered back to full brightness, and a low, rumbling noise echoed throughout the entire vessel. Then, a deep voice, alien but somehow familiar, filled the room. Warning, the voice said, its tone cold and foreboding. This ship carries the legacy of the Class 15 Death World. Enter at your own risk. The words sent a chill down the crew's spines. The term Class 15 Death World was one they had only heard in rumors and classified reports. It was a name used for the most dangerous planets in the galaxy, where life was harsh and death was constant. To think that this ship came from such a place made every nerve in their bodies tingle with fear. We need to leave now, Davis said, her voice trembling slightly. Captain Saunders looked at the console, then back at his crew. Not yet, we've come too far to turn back now. We're going to find out everything this ship has to offer no matter what. Just as the captain spoke, a sudden jolt rocked the ship. It was brief, but enough to make everyone stumble. The lights flickered again, and the room seemed to grow darker. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, realizing that they weren't alone on the ship. They had just awakened something that had been dormant for far too long. The question now wasn't whether they should leave. It was whether they could survive what they had just uncovered, and somewhere in the depths of the ship, something ancient and dangerous was watching them. Asterisk strange science crew stood frozen, the echo of the alien warning still ringing in their ears. The room, once full of anticipation, now felt heavy, suffocating with an eerie energy that seemed to pulse in sync with the hum of the ship. Every shadow felt deeper, and the air seemed to grow colder with every passing second. "We need to keep moving," Captain Saunders said, his voice steady but with an undercurrent of uncertainty. He could feel the weight of his words hanging in the air. The team had no choice but to press on. The ship had offered them its secrets, but it had also warned them of the dangers ahead. They couldn't turn back now. Ensign Carter led the way, his steps slow and cautious. The crew followed closely behind, weapons drawn and eyes scanning every corner of the darkened corridors. The once bright lights of the ship flickered sporadically, casting long shadows that seemed to shift with every movement. As they ventured deeper into the heart of the ship, the signs grew stranger. Alien symbols appeared on walls that had once seemed empty, glowing faintly in the darkness. The ship's temperature dropped and the air grew heavier. There were faint, almost imperceptible sounds. In the distance, a low, rhythmic thumping that seemed to come from deep within the ship. "What is that?" Lieutenant Davis whispered, her voice tight with unease. "I don't know," Captain Saunders said, his eyes narrowing as he listened. The thumping sound was growing louder, reverberating through the ship's metallic bones. It was rhythmic, like the beating of a heart. But there was something wrong about it, something unnatural. The deeper they went, the more the ship seemed to come alive, as if it was reacting to their presence. The lights flickered with increasing frequency, and the walls began to vibrate. A strange energy filled the air, making the hair on the back of their necks stand on end. "We should stick together," Davis suggested, her voice now trembling. "Something feels wrong here." "We're not alone." Captain Saunders glanced at her, then turned back toward the narrow passage ahead. "We'll be fine, keep your wits about you." But even as he spoke, a creeping unease began to settle in his chest. The ship was alive with something more than just the faint hum of its dormant systems. There was something in the walls, something lurking just beyond their reach. It was as if the ship was aware of their presence and it didn't want them there. The crew moved cautiously through the next series of rooms. Each one seemed more unsettling than the last. Some rooms were filled with strange, unidentifiable objects, others with alien technology that pulsed with an unnatural energy the crew couldn't make sense of any of it. But the most unnerving discovery came when they entered what appeared to be a command center of sorts. Inside, a large holographic map of the galaxy shimmered in the center of the room. It was strange, unlike anything they had ever seen, with star systems marked in red, blue, and green. But as they examined the map, they realized that the star systems marked in red were dead, destroyed, obliterated. The alien ship had been here, and it had left a trail of devastation in its wake. "Captain," Carter said, his voice trembling, "these systems, they're not just mapped, they've been annihilated." Saunders stepped forward, studying the map carefully. "This ship didn't just travel the stars. It destroyed entire systems. This was a weapon of mass destruction." The crew stared at the map in disbelief. It was one thing to encounter a deadly alien ship, but this was something else entirely. This ship had been to places no one should have gone, and it had left nothing but ruin in its wake. As they stood there, taking in the scale of the destruction, the air grew colder, and the rhythmic thumping sound returned louder, more insistent. The walls seemed to tremble as the thumping grew into a pounding, almost deafening beat. The crew exchanged nervous glances. "What the hell is that?" Davis asked, her voice barely audible over the noise. Suddenly, a loud, screeching sound erupted from the walls, and the entire ship seemed to shake violently. The crew stumbled, gripping onto anything they could to steady themselves. The lights flickered, and the ship's systems groaned as if the very structure was being torn apart. "Get to the exit, now!" Saunders barked. His voice was filled with urgency. The team didn't hesitate. They turned and bolted toward the nearest hallway, but as they ran, the ship seemed to fight back. The walls shifted and strange mechanical limbs emerged from hidden compartments, blocking their path. "Captain, we're trapped," Carter shouted, panic rising in his voice. "Stay calm," Saunders shouted back. "We've survived worse." But even as he spoke, he knew that this was different. This wasn't just a ship, it was a weapon, and they had unknowingly awakened it. The pounding grew louder, and the walls seemed to close in on them. The very air seemed thick with the ship's growing power. It was alive, and it was not happy to have visitors. Captain Saunders reached for his communicator, but before he could speak, the ship's system shut down completely. The lights went out, plunging them into complete darkness. The crew stood motionless, breathing heavily, the only sound the pounding in their ears. And then, out of the silence, a voice echoed through the darkness, cold, chilling, and unmistakably alien. "You should not have come." The voice reverberated in their minds, sending a shiver down their spines. They weren't alone. And now, they weren't sure if they would make it out alive. The ship was awake, and it was ready to make them regret their curiosity. Humanity's Airwolf suffocating silence that followed the alien voice was unbearable. The crew stood frozen in the pitch black, their hearts pounding as the ship around them seemed to pulse with a life of its own. The only sound they could hear was their own shallow breathing, the rhythmic thumping in their chests matching the pounding from deep within. The ship. Captain Saunders couldn't move, couldn't speak. Something about the voice, the coldness, the authority sent a jolt of pure terror through him. The crew had prepared for alien encounters, but nothing could have prepared them for this. They had stumbled onto something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. The lights flickered, casting brief flashes of illumination. In those split-second moments, the shadows seemed to dance and shift unnaturally, making it hard to tell what was real and what was part of the ship's twisted mind. But before anyone could react further, a strange noise cut through the tense atmosphere. A deep, resonant hum vibrated through the walls, and then suddenly lights burst to life all over the ship. Brighter than ever before, the crew shielded their eyes from the intensity. Then, through the blinding brightness, they saw something that they could never have expected: a fleet of advanced human ships emerging from the shadows of the ship's docking bay. Humanity, Davis whispered in disbelief. The ships weren't just any fleet, they were advanced warships, sleek and powerful, their black and silver frames gleaming with cold precision. They seemed to materialize from thin air like something out of a dream or a nightmare. The crew stared at them, stunned. Captain Saunders, this is Admiral Vance, crackled a calm, authoritative voice over the communications system. It was human, but it carried an odd echo as if coming from another time or place. I see you've activated the ship's systems. I suggest you stand by for extraction. We've been tracking this ship for a long time. Admiral Saunders stammered, his mind racing. Who are you, and how did you know about this ship? The voice paused for a moment, then answered, we've been preparing for this encounter for years. Humanity has already encountered this ship once before, and we've been waiting for it to return. We knew someone would find it. It was just a matter of time. The words hung in the air, but the crew didn't have time to process them. As the human ships powered up, their engines radiated a powerful energy, humming with force as they docked with the alien vessel. The massive Class 15 ship, its once foreboding dark hull, now seemed like nothing more than a puppet, waiting to be controlled. Everyone, brace yourselves, Captain Saunders ordered as the hum of the docking procedure grew louder. The air crackled with tension as the crew braced for whatever was to come next. With a soft whoosh, the docking clamps engaged and the ship came to a slow, steady halt. The crew was now connected to the alien ship by a secure passage. But before they could even prepare themselves, the airlock opened with a deep mechanical hiss. Through the darkened hallway, a figure stepped forward, illuminated by the soft glow of emergency lights. It was Admiral Vance, tall and imposing in his dark uniform. Flanked by a small team of officers, his expression was unreadable, but his eyes betrayed a calm knowing. Captain Saunders, Vance greeted, his voice measured and calm. You've done well in discovering this ship, but I'm afraid you've walked into something far more dangerous than you realize. Saunders was about to respond, but the Admiral held up a hand, signaling him to remain silent. We've been monitoring this ship for years. It's been dormant, hidden in deep space, awaiting a time when it would awaken. The alien race that created it, well, they aren't around anymore. This ship is a weapon of unimaginable power, and humanity has had a plan for dealing with it. Since we first discovered its existence, the crew exchanged confused glances, each of them trying to make sense of the Admiral's cryptic words. What plan? How do you know so much about this ship? Davis asked, unable to contain her curiosity. Vance looked around the room at the crew, his eyes sharp with the weight of the information he was about to share. We didn't just stumble upon this ship by chance. Long ago, humanity encountered the Class 15 Death World when we began exploring deep space. The technology we found in its ruins was advanced, almost godlike, but it was too dangerous to be left unchecked. So, we created a strategy to contain it. And that strategy starts here. The Admiral turned to face the crew, his expression hardening. This ship was once a tool of destruction, but now it's our weapon. And we've been preparing for its return. Captain Saunders felt a chill run down his spine. He had known that humanity was resourceful, but this was far beyond anything he had imagined. Why didn't you warn us? Saunders asked, his voice thick with disbelief. Why didn't we know about any of this? Vance's gaze softened slightly. Because you were never supposed to find it. This ship was meant to remain hidden. The galaxy wasn't ready to face what it represents. But now that you've awakened it, it's time for humanity to take control. With a final, resolute glance, Vance turned toward the ship's console. We'll need your team to assist in securing this ship. We've already disabled its most dangerous systems, but there's still much to learn. Humanity's future depends on what we can extract from this vessel. Saunders looked around at his crew, each one still reeling from the sudden turn of events. They had found a deadly alien ship, a relic from a long-forgotten time. But now, thanks to humanity's foresight and preparation, they weren't alone. Humanity had already been here, watching, waiting. And now, the true mission was about to begin. But as Saunders watched the Admiral and his team move to take control of the alien vessel, something stirred deep within the ship. A low hum, almost imperceptible, filled the air. The ship wasn't done yet, and whatever humanity had planned for it, it wasn't going to be easy. They had awoken something far more dangerous than they realized, and the real battle had only just begun. Uncovering the truth, hum of the alien ship's systems echoed through the cold corridors, now synchronized with the steady rhythm of humanity's advanced machinery. The sudden presence of the human fleet, their ship docked seamlessly with the Class 15 vessel, turned the atmosphere from eerie uncertainty to a controlled yet tense calm. The ship, which had once felt like a dormant predator, now lay under the vigilant watch of humanity's finest. Captain Saunders followed Admiral Vance and his team down narrow, metallic hallways toward the command center, his mind racing with questions. Every step deeper into the alien ship made his nerves grow tighter. What was it about this ship that had caused so much forethought and preparation from humanity? And why had they kept such information from the rest of the galaxy? They arrived at a large, imposing door. The sleek surface pulsed with faint light from within, and as the door slid open, the room beyond revealed a control station like no other. The walls were covered in strange symbols that flickered like holograms, continuously shifting and changing. It felt alive, as if the room itself had a consciousness, perhaps even a history of its own. Vance stepped forward, touching a console with a smooth motion. Immediately, the walls lit up, and a large holographic display appeared before them. The map of the galaxy was replaced with an array of red and green signals, highlighting areas of interest. "This is it," Vance said, his voice calm but tinged with excitement. "This is the true purpose of the ship." Captain Saunders watched as the map displayed systems that had been wiped out over the years, entire colonies erased in a blink of an eye. But what caught his attention most was the area near the center of the map, Earth's solar system. The red marker there didn't just signify a lost world. It signified a threat. Humanity wasn't just tracking this ship for protection. Vance continued, turning to face Saunders. "This ship holds technology that can reshape the balance of power across the galaxy. But it's more than that. The Class 15 ship's creators were not the only ones to use it. It was used by a race far more ancient, far more dangerous than we've ever faced." "What race?" Saunders asked, his voice tense. He had a sinking feeling that the answers they were about to uncover were far worse than he had imagined. "The Nephra," Vance said with a cold finality. "An ancient race, long extinct, that used the Class 15 ships to conquer and destroy entire civilizations. They were merciless, and they left behind a weapon, a tool for galactic annihilation." Saunders stared at the holographic map, the reality of what he was hearing slowly sinking in. This ship wasn't just an ancient relic, it was a weapon of mass destruction. And it wasn't just any weapon, it was designed by a race so brutal they had exterminated entire species for fun. The Nephra were no longer a threat, but their legacy still lived on in these ships, scattered across the galaxy. "But why bring us here now?" Saunders asked. "Why awaken it if humanity already knew about the Nephra? Why didn't we just destroy this ship?" Admiral Vance paused, turning his gaze toward the holographic map. "Because, Captain, we couldn't destroy it. We needed it. Humanity has always been ready for survival, and we're ready now." The Nephra left behind more than just weapons, they left knowledge. And that knowledge is the key to our future. The lights flickered again as the ship's systems powered up, and a deep rumble shook the walls. Saunders gripped the edge of the console to steady himself. "Knowledge of what?" Vance's face hardened. "Knowledge of the Nephra's greatest weapon, the true power that was hidden within these ships." The Class 15 death worlds were not just dangerous environments. They were designed as testing grounds. The real weapon was the ship itself. The Nephra created a device capable of manipulating space-time, something we never thought possible. And now, it's here. Humanity will use it to alter the galaxy's balance of power in our favor. The words hit Saunders like a punch to the gut. The power to manipulate space-time? The implications of that kind of technology were beyond anything he could comprehend. It could tear apart entire solar systems, warp the fabric of reality, or even change the course of history. "So, we've been preparing for this?" Davis asked, her voice a mix of awe and disbelief. "We've been waiting for this technology," Vance nodded grimly. "Yes, we knew it was coming, and we had to be ready, but there's one problem. The ship itself, its power is unstable. The Nephra never fully understood it, and neither do we, but we have to try. We can't let it fall into the wrong hands. Wrong hands, Carter asked, confused. Who else knows about this? Vance's eyes darkened. That's the real danger. We aren't the only ones who've been watching. There are other factions, alien races that are aware of the ship's capabilities. If we don't act fast, this technology will be stolen. And whoever controls it will have the power to rewrite the galaxy's fate, Captain Saunders felt. The weight of the moment pressed down on him. Humanity was standing at the crossroads of its future. They had discovered a weapon, a tool that could change the galaxy forever. And now they had to make a choice, use it to secure their place as the dominant force in the universe, or destroy it before someone else did. But as they prepared to move forward, something else caught Saunders' eye, a flicker on the console's display, a signal. It was faint, barely noticeable, but it was there, and it was coming from somewhere deep within the ship. He pointed at the screen. What is that? Vance looked at it, his expression unreadable. Then, with a heavy sigh, he spoke the words that sent a chill down Saunders' spine. Someone else is here. Someone who wants the power of this ship, and they're already on their way. The fight for the Class 15 ship had just begun, and humanity was about to face its most dangerous enemy. The power of humanity. Flickering signal on the console seemed to grow stronger, pulsing in time with the rapidly accelerating hum of the alien ship. The crew's anxiety spiked as they all exchanged uneasy glances. For the first time since they boarded, they realized the magnitude of the danger they were facing. The alien vessel, once dormant and forgotten, had now become a prize everyone wanted, and there were forces out there willing to destroy anyone who stood in their way. To claim it, Admiral, we need to act fast, Captain Saunders said, his voice low but resolute. If someone else is coming for this ship, we can't afford to wait around and hope for the best. What's the plan? Vance, who had been studying the signal closely, turned slowly to face him. The weight of the situation was clear in his eyes, but his expression remained hard as steel. There is no waiting. The only plan now is to secure the ship and ensure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands, Vance said, stepping toward the main console. We've prepared for this, Saunders. We knew we couldn't control this ship forever. It's only a matter of time before others find it. But humanity is not going to let anyone take what's ours. This ship holds the key to our future, and we will not let it slip away. His voice was calm, but there was a steel-like edge to it. Captain Saunders had heard that tone before, in the heat of battle, when every decision mattered, when lives were on the line. The Admiral wasn't just commanding a crew, he was leading humanity into a new chapter of its destiny. Saunders looked around at his crew, their faces filled with a mixture of fear and determination. He could see it in their eyes. They were ready. They had made it this far, and they weren't going to back down now. We can do this, Saunders said, his voice filled with conviction. We're not just here as explorers, we're here to protect the future of humanity. As the crew prepared for the mission ahead, a sudden blast rocked the ship. The force of it sent them stumbling, but they quickly regained their footing. The walls trembled with the impact and the lights flickered, casting the command center into a chaotic dance of shadows and light. Enemy ship incoming, Vance said, his voice ice cold as he activated the defense systems. Get to your stations, now. Captain Saunders turned to his crew. You heard the Admiral. Move out. The team sprang into action. Davis and Carter rushed to the weapons systems, their fingers flying over the controls as they engaged the ship's advanced defense protocols. The force field generators hummed to life, casting a protective aura around the vessel. But the enemy ship was already on its way, rapidly closing in on their position. We don't have much time, Carter said, his voice tense. If we don't engage them soon, we'll be sitting ducks. We're ready, Saunders said, a flicker of a smile crossing his face. Humanity always is. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the approaching enemy ship. It was a sleek, shadowy vessel, its design sharp and menacing. Unlike humanity's warships, which were built for function and precision, this ship was built to intimidate. The black exterior absorbed all light, and its jagged edges gave it the appearance of a creature ready to strike. Enemy ship has locked onto us, Davis reported, her voice steady but filled with tension. They're preparing to fire. We can't let them take us down, Saunders said, his eyes narrowing. This ship is humanity's legacy now. We're not losing it to anyone. As the enemy ship neared, Vance gave the order, fire the main cannons. The first shot sent a jolt through the astral Voyager. The blast collided with the enemy vessel, creating a massive shockwave that rattled their own ship. But the enemy wasn't deterred. Their ship retaliated with a barrage of missiles that streaked toward the astral Voyager, explosive bursts lighting up the darkened space around them. We've got incoming, Carter shouted. Activate the defense shields, Saunders ordered. Davis, keep us moving. We can't stay still or we'll be sitting targets. The crew's hands flew over the control panels, navigating the astral Voyager in a desperate dance of evasion. The enemy ship's firepower was overwhelming. But humanity had a secret weapon of its own, the advanced technology they had long been developing. Waiting for a moment like this, full speed ahead. And prepare for counterattack, Saunders commanded, his voice unyielding. The hum of the ship's engines intensified as it surged forward. Breaking through the barrage of enemy fire, target their weak spots, Davis said. Her fingers steady on the controls, she guided the ship into an evasive maneuver, dodging another wave of missiles before launching their own counteroffensive. The Astral Voyager's weapons systems lit up, a barrage of energy pulses streaking across space. Colliding with the enemy vessel for a moment, it seemed as though their counterattack had missed its mark. But then, a massive explosion erupted on the enemy ship's surface, sending debris flying into space. "We hit them," Carter yelled. "Keep pressing," Saunders shouted. "They're not giving up." "And neither are we." The battle raged on. The crew of the Astral Voyager fully engaged in their fight for survival. As the enemy ship's power began to dwindle, they realized they were not just fighting for their lives. They were fighting for the future of humanity. The final blow came when Davis, with precise timing, launched the last of their energy missiles directly at the enemy's engine core. The enemy ship faltered, its systems shutting down. And then it exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The crew sat back, breathing heavily, the reality of their victory sinking in. The battle was over, but the real fight had only just begun. Humanity had claimed victory, but it wasn't just the war they had won the future. "We did it," Saunders said, his voice filled with quiet pride. "No," Vance said, his gaze focused on the still glowing remains of the enemy ship. "This is just the beginning. Now, we secure what we've found and use it to secure our place in the galaxy." The Astral Voyager sailed forward into the unknown, ready to face whatever came next. Humanity had just taken its first step toward becoming the dominant force in the galaxy, and nothing, not even the legacy of the Nephra, could stop them now.